The twin suns burned hot above the dusty market of Zirlin Outpost 7, a forgotten trading post at the edge of the galaxy. Heat waves rose from the metal roofs, and the air smelled of oil, sweat, dry sand. Traders shouted from every corner. Fresh plasma cells. Old Earth tools, barely used. Half-price warbot arms. In the middle of the market, a rough wooden platform stood tall. On top of it, a green-skinned alien with 4 eyes and a heavy cloak raised his hands. Next item. 1 rare female. Rel species, the trader yelled. A few people stopped and looked. Some laughed. Some just walked away. The cage beside him held a thin girl. Her skin was a pale blue, and her body was covered in old scars. Her long white hair hung over her face, hiding her eyes. She didn't move. She sat still, legs crossed, hands tied in front of her. Her clothes were torn and dusty. She's useless, one alien said. Is she even alive? Another asked. The trader laughed. Live enough, good for experiments, maybe scrap parts for organ farms. Or if you're lonely, she still breathes. A ripple of laughter passed through the crowd. He held up a dusty glass bottle. 1 bottle of liquor. That's all I ask. Just 1. Come on, someone take this broken thing away! The girl didn't speak, didn't look up. She just sat there, her head low. In the back of the crowd, a man stood watching. He wore a worn leather jacket, dusty boots, and carried a tool bag slung. Over one shoulder, he had short brown hair, stubble on his chin, and eyes that were sharp, yet tired. His name was Jackson Rourke. He's a human engineer and ship mechanic. He had traveled across 50 systems, fixing everything from power cores to cargo bots. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, but he had a good heart. He stepped forward. I'll take her, he said calmly. The crowd turned. The trader blinked. You got liquor? No, Jackson said, opening his bag. He pulled out a small silver tool. This is a Terratech Omnispanner. It adjusts to over 300 models. Worth 5 bottles, maybe more. The trader's eyes widened. Serious? Jackson nodded. Serious. The trader looked around. No one else made an offer. Fine. Deal. He tossed the cage key at Jackson. Jackson caught it, stepped up, and unlocked the cage. The girl didn't move. He knelt down beside her. Hey, he said softly. You're safe now. I'm not here to hurt you. Still, she didn't respond. Gently, he reached out and cut the rope from her hands. Then, he offered her water from his flask. She stared at the water, hesitated, then drank. Jackson smiled. Let's get out of here, back at his small ship. The Hound, Jackson guided her inside. The ship was old, but well kept. It had a small med bay, a cockpit, and a sleeping area. He showed her the bed. You can rest here. I'll be in the cockpit if you need anything. She sat on the bed, eyes still empty. Jackson left the door open and returned to his seat. He checked the systems, started engine warm-up, and sighed. He didn't know who she was or what had happened to her. But he knew pain when he saw it. Hours passed. Girl hadn't moved. Jackson walked back in, holding a tray with food, placed it on the small table beside her. She looked at it, then at him. You hungry? He asked. She didn't answer. I don't know your name, he said, but I'm Jackson. I fix things. Ships, tools, sometimes even people. Still silent? He gave her space. Day turned to night. Stars filled the sky outside the window. In the quiet of the ship, something shifted. A whisper, barely audible, reached him. Iria Jackson turned. The girl had spoken. He smiled gently. Iria, that's your name? She nodded once. He sat on the floor. Not too close. Nice to meet you, Iria. She looked at him, uncertain. No cage here, he said. No ropes. You're free. A tear slid down her cheek. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing more. The next day, Jackson worked in the engine room. The power core had been acting up. Again, he grunted, twisted a bolt, and accidentally cut his hand on a sharp panel. Damn it! Suddenly someone touched his arm. He looked up. Uro was standing there, holding a cloth. She gently wrapped it around his hand. He stared at her, surprised. You didn't have to. But her eyes focused on the core behind him. She pointed. Then she stepped forward and pressed 3 buttons in a sequence. The core's hum smoothed out. Jackson blinked. You know fusion tech? She nodded slowly. He sat back, amazed. You're not just smart, you're brilliant. Her voice was quiet. They used me, forced me to build things, then threw me away. Jackson's jaw tightened. He understood now. I'm sorry, he said. That should never have happened. She sat beside him, looking at the core. I was worth more. He looked at her, serious. You are worth more. You always were. Iria glanced at him, eyes shining, and for the first time, a small spark returned to her face. That night, she ate more, spoke a few more words, asked about stars, engines, and humans. Jackson told her stories. About Earth, about wild storms, blue oceans, loud cities, and kind people. Iria listened closely. Before sleeping, she said softly, Why? Did you save? Me. Jackson shrugged. Because no one else did. Because I saw someone who needed help. She looked at him. You're strange, for a human. He chuckled. I've been told that. She gave a faint smile. And in that moment, something changed. The girl who was sold for a bottle of liquor was no longer just a broken thing in a cage. She was Iria, and she had been seen. The stars outside the window of the Hound moved slowly as the ship drifted through quiet space. The hum of the engine was steady now, smoother than before. Jackson sat at the cockpit, sipping Old Terran coffee and checking the navigation system. They were heading toward Orion Repair Hub, a neutral station where he usually stopped for supplies and rest behind him in the hallway. He heard soft footsteps. Iria stood there, wrapped in a clean blanket. Her pale blue skin looked brighter now. Her long white hair had been gently brushed, though still tangled in places. Dade, she walked slowly, but her legs were steady. Jackson turned and smiled. Morning, Iria. Sleep okay? She nodded. Yes. Noticed her eyes, no longer empty, but alert. She was watching everything. The lights, the control panels, the wiring. Her mind was working again. I made something simple, Jackson said, pointing to a plate on the side table. Protein pancakes? Not great, but better than nutrient paste. She walked over and sat down, picking up the food carefully. She took a small bite, then looked surprised. It's warm, she said softly. Jackson grinned. Only the best for the guests. Iria looked at him for a long time. You're different. He raised an eyebrow. Different how? You don't? Look at me like others did. Jackson leaned back. How did they look at you? Like I was a tool, a machine, something broken. Shook his head. You're not broken, not even close. Later, Jackson worked in the cargo bay organizing spare parts. He heard the sound of metal being moved behind him. He turned and found Iria kneeling beside the fusion coil, opening a small panel with careful fingers. What are you doing? He asked, curious. Improving efficiency, she replied. Your engine burns too fast. It can be better. Jackson blinked. You can fix engines? Iria nodded. I was an engineer before. She stopped. Her voice felt quiet. Jackson didn't ask her to explain. Instead, he handed her a small tool. Then maybe you can show me how to do it better. She looked surprised, but took the tool. She worked silently for the next hour, showing him how to realign the internal coils, reduce waste heat, and reroute power through an unused secondary channel. When they finished, the engine readings showed a 15% improvement. Jackson whistled. You're a genius. Iria looked down. I used to be. You still are, he said. Over the next few days, she changed more. She ate more. She slept more calmly. Started asking questions about the ship, about other systems even. About humans. What is Earth like? She asked one evening, sitting near the window. Jackson smiled. It's messy, loud, too many rules, but also beautiful. Oceans, forests, snow, animals everywhere. It's where I was born. Do people there help others like you do? Nodded. Some do, some don't. But I try to. Why? Jackson looked out at the stars. Because we've made mistakes. We've hurt people, sure, but we've also learned. Humanity isn't perfect, but we keep trying to do better. Iria was quiet for a moment. My people believed in peace. We built tools for life, not war. That's why we were taken. Turned to her, taken by who? She looked away. A group called the Zarn Syndicate. They wanted us to build weapons, but we refused. They attacked, destroyed our colony, took me as punishment. I was forced to design things I never wanted to make. Jackson clenched his jaw. You were punished for being good, Iria nodded slowly. After I failed to build their last project, they sold me. Said I was useless. Jackson's fists tightened. They were wrong. You're not useless. You're valuable. Not just for what you know, but for who you are. Her voice trembled. I thought I would never be anything again. He looked at her. Already are something. You're free now. The next day, they docked at Orion Repair Hub. It was a large, ring-shaped station, floating near a blue gas giant. Dozens of ships moved in and out, and the station lights flickered in every color. Jackson and Iria walked through the docking tunnel. She wore a fresh jumpsuit now, simple and gray. She kept close to him, nervous. Are you sure I should be seen? She asked. Nobody's going to hurt you, Jackson said. This place is neutral. Besides, you're with me. In the supply bay, they picked up fuel rods, engine coolant, and a new communication chip. The shopkeeper, a tall, lizard-like alien, stared at Iria for a second, but said nothing when Jackson gave a cold look. Later, while walking through the station, they passed a holoboard showing wanted criminals. Jackson stopped. One of the faces flashed. Zarn Warlord Tovik, head of the Syndicate's outer fleet, wanted for war crimes, planetary attacks, and illegal trafficking. Jackson turned to Iria. That's them? She stared at the image, her hands shaking. Yes, he gave the order. Jackson nodded. Then we find him. We find all of them. You deserve justice. Her eyes widened. But you're just one man. One ship. He smiled. Then we start with what we have. Back on the Hound, Jackson worked in the cockpit while Arias studied the stolen files he had collected from various black markets over the years, some with data on Zarn activities. She was silent, focused, like a different person now. That night, she came to him with a datapad. I found something. A location. An old Zarn storage base on a moon called Dravos 9. If it's still active, it might have records. Jackson leaned forward. Good. Then we go there next. She looked hesitant. It will be dangerous. He chuckled. I've done dangerous before. She looked down. You're risking too much for me. He shook his head. I'm not. Doing it for you? I'm doing it with you. You're part of this now. Her voice was soft. You trust me? Yes, Jackson said. Do you trust yourself? She looked unsure, then gave a small nod. Then let's get to work, he said. In the engine room, side by side, they began preparing the Hound for the next mission. Iria moved with confidence now, fixing circuits, upgrading shields, and even reprogramming the nav system to avoid Zarn patrol zones. Jackson watched her. Proud. The girl who had once been sold for a bottle of liquor was now standing tall, strong, and focused. Not a prisoner, not a victim, but a partner. A spark still burned. Inside her and it was growing brighter every day. The ship Hound moved silently through deep space, heading toward Dravos 9, a cold, lifeless moon in a dead system. It was the kind of place no one visited, lest they had a reason. Jackson Rourke sat in the pilot's seat, eyes on the stars. Iria sat beside him, staring at the navigation screen. Her hands no longer shook. Her eyes were focused. Dr. AVOS-9 was not on any official charts. Iria had found it hidden in an old file, buried under layers of code from Zarn communication logs. She believed it was once a storage facility, maybe even a data center used during the Syndicate's early expansion. It won't be guarded, she said. But there could be traps. Jackson smirked. What's a mission without a few traps? Rhea looked at him. You joke too much, he shrugged. It's either that or panic. Jokes are easier. She gave a small smile. Strange human logic. As the Hound approached the moon, Iria ran a scan. No active shields, no signals, but power is still running underground. Hidden base confirmed, Jackson said. Land. The ship touched down on a rocky surface, covered in ice and ash. The entrance to the base was hidden behind a mountain ridge. They put on breathing masks and stepped out. The air was thin and cold. Iria led the way with a scanner in her hand. The entrance was a metal hatch buried under a layer of frozen dust. She found the lock panel and connected her tool. It's old Zarn code. I can break it. Jackson stood watch, holding his blaster. A few minutes later, the door hissed open. They walked into darkness. Inside, the base smelled of rust and oil. The hallway lights flickered weakly. Old crates and broken machines lay on the floor. It felt like a place forgotten by time. They moved carefully through the halls until they reached the main control room. Rhea found the power terminal and linked. Her device, as screens flickered to life, rows of files appeared. Names, dates, coordinates. It's all here, she whispered. Data logs, war records, names of scientists, plans for attacks. Jackson leaned closer. Anything about your colony? She typed quickly. Then she stopped. Her face went pale. She opened a file. There it was. Operation Silence. Subject Earl Colony. Planet Maria 4. Status. Complete. The file showed video clips, numbers, and a voice recording. A cold voice spoke. Begin cleansing. No survivors. Capture the engineer area for use in Project Redline? Jackson looked at her. That's you. She nodded slowly. They planned. They destroyed my home to get me. Her hands trembled, but she didn't look away. Another file showed photos of her people, her city, her lab, all burned. All gone. They said it was a raid, she whispered. But it was a plan. Jackson's face hardened. This is enough to put the whole syndicate on trial. But no one listens, she said. They hide. They buy silence. They bribe the council. Jackson shook his head. At Earth, not the Terran Defense Network. I know someone, a commander. He owes me a favor. We show him this, and he'll move. Iria stared at him. You'd risk that? For you. Yes. As they were copying the files, a sound echoed in the hall. Metal. Footsteps. Iria froze. We're not alone. Jackson drew his blaster. Let's move. From the hallway, a small patrol unit of 3 Zarn security drones appeared. Red lights flashing. Unauthorized access detected. One said, Jackson fired. One drone exploded. The others returned fire. Iria ducked behind a console. I need 1 more minute. Jackson rolled, blasting the second drone's leg. Sparks flew. He fired a game-direct hit. The third drone moved fast, aiming at Iria. She grabbed a broken pipe and hit the drone's sensor. Jackson jumped in front, shielding her, and fired 2 clean shots. The drone dropped. Iria looked at him, wide-eyed. You didn't even think. You just jumped. He breathed hard. That's what we do. Humans protect their own. They finished copying the data and rushed back to the surface. As they climbed aboard the Hound, Iria connected the files to the ship's core. We need to send this to your contact, she said. Jackson nodded. Commander Hal Briggs. Terran. Defense Zone 9. He opened a secure channel and sent the files with a short message. Hal, you owe me. This is real. We need help. Then they waited. Minutes passed. Iria paced back and forth. Finally, the reply came. Message received. Rendezvous at Station Omega 17. Bring her. Bring the proof. Fleet will be ready. Jackson smiled. Told. Iria sat down slowly. If we do this, Syndicate will come for us. He looked at her. Then we hit back harder. That night, while flying toward the meeting point, Iria sat quietly, staring at the stars. Jackson joined her. "Remember my mother's voice," she said. "She told me I would help build a better galaxy." He listened in silence. "I used to dream of peaceful machines, floating gardens, cities that healed themselves." Jackson nodded. "Sounds beautiful." She turned to him. "Do humans still dream like that all the time?" he said. "We're full of mistakes, but we never stop dreaming." She smiled faintly. "Maybe we're not so different." He looked at her serious. "Iria, this fight is your choice. If you want to walk away, I'll drop you on any safe world." She shook her head. "I'm not hiding anymore," he smiled. "Good, because I think the galaxy just met someone who's going to change everything." The station, Omega-17, floated quietly in the shadow of a blue gas giant. Its metal surface reflected the distant stars. Inside, the halls buzzed softly with energy and the hum of engines. It was a military base, but not one built for war. It was a place for defense, for peacekeeping, and sometimes Justice Jackson Rourke docked the Hound at a quiet berth. Iria stood beside him, now more confident but still cautious. The memories of her past weighed heavily on her, but the hope of the future kept her steady. "Ready?" Jackson asked. She nodded. "Let's go." Inside the base they were greeted by Commander Hal Briggs, a tall man with sharp eyes and a weathered face. He wore a Terran defense uniform, decorated with medals and patches from battles long past. "Jackson," Hal said with a slight smile, "I heard you brought something important." Jackson handed over the data files. "This is proof of the Zarn Syndicate's crimes. Genocide, slavery, illegal weapons programs. They wiped out Iria's entire colony." Hal scanned the files quickly. His expression hardened. "This is serious," he said. "I'll arrange for an official investigation, but we need more. The Syndicate won't back down easily." Iria stepped forward. "I want to help. I can use my knowledge to fight them, to stop others from suffering like I did." Hal looked at her with respect. "Your skills could turn the tide. But you must be ready." Jackson nodded. "She is." The next days were busy. Iria worked with the engineers and strategists, using her REL technology to upgrade the Hound. She improved the ship's shields, weapons, and stealth systems. Jackson taught her human tactics and ship control. Together, they became a strong team. One evening, in the briefing room, Hal laid out their plan. "We will strike the Syndicate supply lines, cut off their resources, then we'll attack their command base." "What about the people they still hold captive?" Hal's voice grew firm. "Rescue missions come second. First, we weaken their power." Iria clenched her fists. "I want to save them." Hal nodded. "And you will. Once their defenses crumble." During this time, Iria learned more about humans. She was surprised at their strength, not just physical. But in hope and loyalty, Jackson showed her a photo of his family. "We fight for those we love," he said. Iria smiled softly. "I have lost much, but maybe I can find a new family." Here, the day came to launch their first attack. Jackson and Iria piloted the Hound with a small fleet behind them. The target was a Syndicate supply station on a barren moon. The station was guarded by Zarn warships. Heavily armed and ready, Iria sat at the weapons console, fingers flying over controls she had helped design. Jackson gripped the pilot controls, eyes sharp. "Ready?" Jackson asked. "Ready," Iria replied. The battle began. Explosions lit the dark space. Laser beams cut through the void. Syndicate ships fired missiles, but the Hound dodged and weaved. Iria's upgraded weapons struck true. She targeted engines and shields, crippling enemy ships one by one. Jackson coordinated with the fleet, sending commands and covering allies, despite heavy fire. Their team pushed forward. Suddenly, a massive Syndicate cruiser appeared. Its hull was thick, and its weapons deadly. "Brace yourself," Jackson warned. Iria worked fast, activating the new energy shield she had designed. The cruiser's blasts bounced off. Jackson found an opening and fired the ship's main cannon. A direct hit. The cruiser shuddered, then exploded in a fireball. With the supply station destroyed, the fleet cheered. It was a victory. Back at Omega-17, Hal congratulated them. You've done well. But this is just the beginning. Aria felt something she hadn't in a long time hope. Jackson smiled at her. You're not broken. You're powerful. She looked at him, eyes shining. Thank you. For seeing me? The battle above the gas giant was fierce. The Hound, now upgraded with Iria's REL technology and Jackson's human grit, soared through a storm of Zarn warships. Red lasers cut across the dark space, and explosions lit the clouds below. Jackson gripped the controls tight, sweat beading on his forehead. Iria status, shouted over the comms. Shields at 80%, she replied calmly. Weapons ready to fire. I'm locking on to the flagship. The Zarn flagship was massive, cruel-looking warship covered in spikes and glowing with deadly energy weapons. Jackson nodded. Let's show them what humans in Uriel can do. The battle raged. Zarn fighters swarmed like angry hornets. Jackson dodged missile barrages while Iria guided the ship's weapons with expert precision. Every blast from the Hound found its mark. Suddenly, the flagship fired a massive energy beam. The ship shook violently. Hold on, Jackson yelled. Pushing the engines to their limit, the shield flickered dangerously. Iria recalibrated the energy field, stabilizing the shield just in time. Now, she cried. Jackson fired the main cannon. The beam struck the flagship's core. Sparks and flames erupted. The enemy ship shuddered and then exploded in a brilliant fireball. The remaining Zarn ships scattered. The Terran fleet arrived, quickly overpowering the rest. Jackson and Iria breathed heavily. Eyes wide but shining with victory, Commander Hal's voice came over the comms. Excellent work, Rourke. You and Iria have turned the tide. Later on the Terran command deck, Iria was honored. The Council offered her a new role, a chance to rebuild and protect, not to be a prisoner or a weapon. Jackson stood beside her. Proud, you changed everything, he said quietly. She smiled, tears in her eyes. No more cages, she whispered. Months passed. Iria worked with humans, aliens, and others. Together, they rebuilt the ruined colonies. She shared Uriel technology that healed planets and powered cities cleanly. Her name became a symbol not of pain, but of hope. Jackson and Iria became partners, friends, and heroes. One evening, on the deck of the Hound under a sky full of stars, Iria looked at Jackson. Thank you, she said softly. For seeing my worth. Jackson smiled. I always did. You were never broken. Together, they watched the stars, ready for whatever came next.